Thank you all very much for being here today. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Madison Tapscott. I'm an Associate Vice President of Equity Research at Stifel, and it is my pleasure to moderate the Critical Metals and Transition Energy session today. First up to the stage, I'd like to welcome Terry Lynch, Chief Executive Officer and Director of Power Metallic Mines. Power Metallic Mines is focused on the exploration and development of high-grade polymetallic assets in Canada, supported by the demand for critical and base metals. Over to you, Terry.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Great to be here in Quebec City again. It's always one of our fun times of the year, one of my favorite spots to come visit, and just love it. And we, of course, got some great weather, and I guess that's been a bit of a break for everyone here. So let's dive into Power Metallic and our world-class polymetallic discovery at Nisk, which is sort of by Nemaska in Quebec. We're not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but you should always do your own due diligence. We think we're a very smart money investment. We've been graced by having some of the most interesting and exceptional investors in mining participate in our recent financings. Robert Friedland, Rob McEwen, Gina Reinhardt. We've got probably some of the top mining funds as well. Why did they come? Generally, they came because of the discovery. So we'll get more into the discovery, but it's a high-grade copper polymetallic discovery. This morning we announced 12.5 meters of 11% copper equivalent. That's just another extension of, as you'll see, some massive grades that we've reported. So that's continuing to happen. Why it's a great time to be looking is we're fully funded. So we're all cashed up. We raised $50 million. We'll talk to you a bit more about that. So no financing in our immediate future. We raised that money so we could drill. We're going to be drilling about 100,000 meters between here and the end of December of 2026, so about 6,000 meters a month. So that will drive assays, which ultimately impact valuation. We're going to do it in a sustainable way. It's always been a part of our motto, and we've certainly lived up to it. And we're doing it in we think is the best jurisdiction in the planet. That's Quebec. Quick snapshot on the company. So about a market cap today of around 250 million or so. The key thing I think to take away from this is that the key stakeholders have almost a 50% market stake. Myself and my family are the largest stakeholders, 16% or so. We've put a fresh $4.5 million in over the last 2 years, and all the key stakeholders have invested over the last 2 years significant sums. And I think that's always a great sign. The people that have the biggest stake are continuing to write checks. That means they continue to believe in the investment. Well, the apologies for the formatting here, but Quebec is definitely a killer location. 3 big reasons we like it. Number one, infrastructure. In our case, we're located off of Route North. You can drive right to the site. We're across the road from Hydro-Quebec substation. We've got power lines on the site, so we've got roads and power. We're 8 kilometers outside the town of Nemaska, which is basically got a regional airport. It's also home of the James Bay Cree. They're our First Nations partner. They're an exceptional group to work with. And I think Quebec's done a great job in working with the First Nations as partners and educating them as to the benefits of mining for their communities. The third reason we love Quebec is the fiscal terms. The fiscal terms in Quebec, Canada, are literally the best in the world. We recently raised $50 million. We raised 80% of it at $2.83 a share, 20% at $1.45. So the overall was around average of $2.50. So investors ultimately ended up paying $1.45, but we were able to leverage that into the $2.50 through the tax codes and the incentives built in Quebec and in Canada. So that's a tremendous advantage for our company and for our shareholders. We talked about the energy transition, and basically, the world's going to need a lot more copper. That's the takeaway from this slide. We're very underinvested in the copper, ultimately in nickel as well, but copper for sure. Boy, the formatting here is just crazy. We sent a slide and they couldn't take the format, so we'll have to fight our way through this. Bottom line, this is going to be a very big discovery. Right now, you can wave around 15 to 20 million tons of ore that we've discovered, or mineralized area. Sakatti is the next one up on the list. That's a really great orthomagmatic deposit, which is what we have, and it's about 41 million tons. Voisey's Bay is 140 plus. We'd expect to probably get to Sakatti size by the end of the year, and we think Voisey's Bay is certainly the next step for us. That's how big this thing can be. This is the discovery itself. So we started off as a nickel. We used to be called Power Nickel because it was a nickel company initially, and we had a nice nickel discovery that we have an MRE on. And we started out 3.1 million tons of 1.5% nickel. It's probably sort of 8.5 there now. The MRE is around 7.1. And looking for more nickel, we stepped out and drilled what we thought would be a nickel hole, and voila, we hit the Lion Zone. So we talked just briefly at the introduction about hitting 12.5 meters today of 11%, but you can see the summary on this slide is 5 of our better holes, basically 21 meters of thickness, 8% copper equivalent. These are staggering sums, really, really amazing. There's nothing quite like it in the world. When you look at it, why we were able to raise the money, we went out and we basically looked at the polymetallic comparables out there. Adriatic is probably the best comparison because it also has $500 rock, which is what we have. And we can see, basically being at the same stage as they are. They just got taken out, or are on the verge of a takeout. So we're trading at about 20 cents on the dollar. That's why we're able to attract capital. This is a really tremendously powerful slide. So it's basically, these are all, the orthomagmatic nickel copper discoveries in the history of the world. So there's only been about 20 of them. Norilsk is the biggest, most valuable mine in the world. Oktябрьский right in the center, the red button there. That's the only $1 trillion mine in the history of the world. Voisey's Bay, who we all know well in Canada here, and Sakatti, and obviously now Power Metallic. So the interesting takeaway from this slide is that probably as we develop this project, we'll end up probably being about a third nickel revenue, a third copper, and a third PGEs. And the other point to take from this slide is that for every 1 ton of copper that we have found, or that was found in these 20 orthomagmatic discoveries around the world, they found 5 tons of nickel sulfide. And it ranges from 2 to 7. So right now at Power Metallic at NISC, we're probably 1.5 copper to nickel, soon to be 2 copper to 1 nickel. So we're finding a lot more copper, but ultimately we're going to find a lot more nickel, and it's going to be rich. So that's why we think this thing will be, in the 40, 50, 100 million tons before it's all said and done. The team is, very focused, very lean. The key, folks to focus on here in the bottom left-hand corner, Joe Campbell and Steve Beresford. They're our scientific team, both Western Mining trained execs. Steve came from First Quantum, MMG, and IGO, where he was chief geo when they went through their billion-dollar transformations. He's probably the top polymetallic scientist in the world. He certainly brought a lot to the team that's helped us to explore rapidly. So between having these great grades and the science team involved, that's what led us to be able to basically get the $50 million. It's obviously great to have that. Allows us to really ramp up our drilling program. So we're gearing up right now. We'll have 6 rigs rolling over the summer. So it'll be a very exciting, newsy story. So we'll start, I would expect summer program drill results will be coming in mid-August. This is what the land package looks like at the moment, and basically we'll be stepping out from the Lion discovery, which is in the far right, to NISC on the far left. There's about 5 kilometers in between there. We believe these things are connected. So we're doing a series of twinned holes, 300 meters across this summer, and each hole will have a borehole EM done. A borehole EM is a technique where you put down and test using electromagnetic pulse to see if there's a sulfide body out there. It's been highly impactful for us. We've been having a 50% drill record success as a result of using this technology. So we believe this will be a way to identify new Lion zones and connect the 2 deposits. So that'll be exciting news this summer. Metallurgy is always a question when you're in a polymetallic discovery. We don't believe that'll be an issue here, but we want to answer it for the market. Right now, we're running at an 80%, for our copper equivalency comparables. When I asked Robert Friedland what he thought on the metallurgy, he said, look, Platte Reef, which is a polymetallic in the Ivanhoe chain, is 88 to 90% sort of recoverables. He says, I'm sure you'll get there. So we think we'll get there, but we'll have some news on that. We're doing a full study right now. We'll probably have some updates in H2 and possibly the whole study out by the end of H2, but certainly Q1 of next year. One of the other things we've got coming is when we were just a nickel deal, we got approached by the largest nickel refiner in the world, CV Mara, about doing a nickel powder plant and basically using NISC nickel to create nickel powder. Nickel powder is basically used to make three things primarily. Batteries for EVs, it's used for 3D printing, and it's used for armaments. So they've got two massive contracts with the DoD for everything from frigates to missiles to bullets. Nickel powder is an exceptionally profitable business, $40,000 to $60,000 a ton for nickel powder versus $15,700 or so for nickel concentrate. So it's pretty interesting, the scale there, and it's probably cost you an extra $4,000. So if you can get in that business, it's a good one. So we'll have an update on that sometime this fall. One of the things we've talked about at the outset was always maintaining our trying to build the world's first carbon neutral, at one point nickel mine, now polymetallic. And we're going to be able to do that here because of, luckily, we've got Hydro-Quebec is on site, right across the way. We've got naturally ability to offset our ultramafic rock, and then the CO2 burn for there's three ways to process nickel. You can basically do it hydrometallurgy, smelting, or chemical metal vapor process, and that's what CV Mara does. So it's a very low energy burn, no external air, no external water. We spun off our projects in BC and in Chile. These were exploration copper goals. We're quite excited about these. We're about to relist them on the TSXV in Q3. So we maintained a 50% interest, and our shareholders on the other 50%. So there'll be a nice little dividend kick coming for our shareholders there on that. Milestones this year is, generally the things that'll drive, I think, valuation and excitement for our shareholders is the ramping of the exploration. So we finished the year, in April with 3 rigs. We're scaling to 6. So you can expect a very steady stream of news and assays as we show the ramp of what we believe will be a massive resource expansion. Generally speaking, mining stocks run with the value in the ground. So as you prove more value in the ground, valuation should rise. We're doing some work on the land packages to enhance our land package. I think you'll see some news on that shortly. We're also looking at moving up exchanges, probably going to TSX, TMX, and possibly an American exchange as well, and possibly even Australia. So we're definitely going to reach out to the world. We've got a big story to tell. We want them to be paying attention. We'll have the metallurgy study comments sort of in Q4, possibly the full report, but certainly by Q1 of next year. As I said, we're relisting the spin-out, so that'll be good. We'll have the feasibility study in H2, and then there'll be some interesting global opportunities that we've definitely been talking to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia about some interesting opportunities down there, and we'll have some comments of that in the not too distant future. So that's the story for Power Metallic. We were the top performing mining stock in Canada last year, and we're looking to do the same in 2025. Thank you for your attention. Hope you have a great day. Cheers.